Hi, I'm Greg, and you're watching 7 Ways to Create Content That Drives Traffic. And everything I'm going over, I learned from going to this conference, Content Marketing World, and let's jump right into it. So first way is write strong opinions and original research. This came from Andy Crestodina. So he said, focus on these 2 things. And let's dive into these. So the first way you can do original research is observation. So this means you pick a data set that you can create through observation. And let me go into it. So one way that Andy did this is by writing this blog post, 10 best practices on the top 50 websites. So as you can see, he just went to the top 50 websites and figured out the best practices from there, observation. Then also there's aggregation. So this is where you go and find existing data sets and you use them to create a research article. Here's an example of that. 7 marketing job descriptions with salaries. So what did he do there to get that data? You might be thinking, oh, that's overwhelming. He must have had to go to so many different places to get that data. But when you dive into it, you can see that it was really just 2 websites. He went to Glassdoor, he went to payscale.com, he got the data, put it into a nice graph, and he gets bonus points for creating this image with his logo on the bottom right so that people can take that and put it on their websites, and he gets credit. The next way to do original research is through survey. So obviously this is where you create your own data. Andy did this great survey of 1,000 bloggers, came up with this blog post and found success tactics of the top bloggers, 11 trends. Sounds pretty complex. The questions were actually pretty simple. Things like this, where how long does it take you to write a typical post? Lots of great information. And this particular post, 350 websites linked this post. It did really well. Original research and doing survey work can lead to a lot of incoming shares, incoming links. So there's 3 ways to do original research. One way to think about it as well is what do people in your industry say but rarely support? And how can you gather data to show that? All right, so that's original research. But what about strong opinions? Here are 3 ways to generate opinion pieces. You could think, what do you believe that most people would disagree with? What do you believe that will happen in the future that others think is unlikely? Or what questions are people in your target market afraid to answer? So, for example, I created a post and a video that said, the only fair way to do startup equity. Pretty opinionated, right? Andy created a post that said, 15 things to remove from your website immediately. So another good opinion piece. So there you go. Strong opinions and original research if you want to create content that achieves a high level of both shares and likes. So that's number 1. Some other things before we move on to number 2 that were in Andy's talk that were useful is focus on long form over short form writing. There's this great data point here from Curata that shows that long form writing typically gets more page views and leads. But then you might be asking yourself, well, what does long form exactly mean? How long is long? That's a good question. So I went and found this other data point here, which shows from the Huffington Post, which shows you that long is about 2,000 words. That's what you might be aiming for if you want to go for long form content. Cool. The other piece of advice that I heard from a lot of people at Content Marketing World is give away the most helpful advice you can. On the internet, we are competing to be the most generous, and the most generous wins. Which reminds me of this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, about that give, ask, right? You should be giving away your best information, your most helpful information, so that when you have something to sell, you can ask. And at that point, people will buy it because you've already given them lots of value. All right, next up, number 2, build relationships with influencers. This came from a lot of different presenters talking about building relationships with influencers, which begs 2 questions. How do you find the right influencers, and how do you get them to help you? We're going to go over that. So first of all, how do you find the right people? Well, you can think about talent your audience already trusts, right? Who are they watching and reading? And, those are the people you want to go after. You can also use tools. There's plenty of them out there. There's one great free tool that I found out there called FollowerWonk, which you can sign up for, log in with your Twitter account, and you can do searches. Like if I wanted to do a post on tech startups, I could type in tech startup, and it returns for me all of the different influencers that have the most followers. And I did notice this also has like a social authority factor in here, which shows me that like how effective is their list. So when they share something, do people respond? Do they retweet? So the people that have high social authority on this website are the ones that I want to target as influencers. So how do I work with my influencers? Well, it seems to be something like this. Maybe you write a blog post. You haven't published it yet. You find 10 influencers on the topic. Maybe you go to FollowerWonk. You follow these influencers. Maybe you interact with them. Maybe you comment on their posts. Maybe you tweet at them. You establish that relationship. And then maybe you email 3 of them for a contributor quote for your article. Maybe just ask them one question. Can you give me 3 sentences on what you think about blah? And if they don't get back to you within 2 days, you can email the other influencers. So if they email you back, you add their quotes to your article, you maybe put their picture, you link to their website, and when you publish it, you let them know. Thanks for, I've got your quote in there, I posted my article, check it out. Thank you for the contribution. And, there's one thing influencers love more than money, right? More influence. If there's one thing, it's more influence. And by asking for that contributor quote, I see you as an expert, give me a contributor quote. Here you are in my article looking like an expert. They'll promote you. Why wouldn't they? You gave them a great incoming link. So here's an example of that. Back on this blog article I showed you a second ago, if you scroll down, so this is the survey article, you'll see all these great influencers that have more than just a few sentences that talk about one thing that came from the survey. Pretty cool. Another way that you can leverage influencers is by doing an expert roundup. Everybody's seen this, where you just ask them the same question. Ask 10 of those people the same question. How would you answer this? I'm aggregating results. This is kind of like doing a survey-ish. So one of the great talks, Robbie Richards that I saw, he showed an example of this. 60 experts reveal top 3 tools to grow your email list. Obviously, that takes a lot of time to email 60. You don't have to do that much. It just could be 10. So that's number 2. Build relationships with influencers. Next up, number 3. Learn how to use SEO to your advantage. There's still a lot of great SEO tricks in there. If I wanted to be listed number 1 for, let's say, the keyword startup equity, there's no way I could do it right now because my website doesn't have enough authority. What does that mean exactly? That it doesn't have enough authority? Well, in case you're not familiar, domain authority is a measure of the power of a domain name, and it's one of the many search engine ranking factors. I didn't know this before the conference. It takes into account things like age, popularity, and size. And you can look up your domain authority by using Moz's research tools. So if you go to Open Site Explorer, like if I look for Code School's domain authority, I can see here that it's 75. If I look for my personal blog's domain authority, the one I created 2 weeks ago, I can see that it's 1. It's too bad that's not like, I'm number 1. No, that's like really, really bad. So anyways, I want to write an article on company culture. So what I might do first is go to Google and type in company culture. Now, if I want to get ranked here on the front page, I need to look at domain authority. And I have this Moz toolbar I can click on. That's a Chrome plugin. And I can see here that DA, right, that says DA, DA91, DA96. That's showing me the domain authority for these top ranked websites and showing me if I don't have a domain authority that high, there's very little chance that I'm going to be able to get ranked on this front page. I need a more domain authority. So I need to look for other keywords. What I might do is go to Google AdWords and use their keyword tool. I'm going to type in company culture and click on get ideas for keywords. So here what I can do is look through additional keywords that I might want to try to rank on that aren't as popular as just writing company culture. And one thing I'm noticing here is that if I use the term work culture, see that work culture, that there's a better chance that I might get ranked. So, interesting. Now, I might go back to Google at that point, type in work culture and do a search. Look at the domain authority for the different websites there. And if my website has a closer domain authority for the ones on the front page, I might actually have a shot. So the next step is I need to take that keyword that I want to use and go into a tool. This is keyword.io. And don't worry, I'll give you the links to all of these. I type that in. And what this tool does is gives me a bunch of unique keywords based off of that keyword. I'm going to select them all and hit copy all, and then bring that back into Google AdWords tool. I'm going to hit back button here. And there's a second search here, get search volume and data trends. I'm going to click on that. And now I'm going to paste in all those extra keywords it gave me. So now I can look and do an even deeper dive to all of the extra keywords that I might want to target that have to do with work culture. And I'm going to want to start building a list of those keywords related there, as well as looking at the bottom of the page when I type in work culture. Look at all the extra keywords there and build a list. So here's a list that I took from both Google AdWords and the related searches. And I'm going to want to use, if I can, all of these keywords towards the either the first paragraph of my article or in the headers of the article. Because what that's going to do is it's more likely that I'm going to start ranking for the related searches. So when somebody searches for work culture definition or work culture meaning, I'm going to get ranked for that. Or even like the meaning of work culture, something like that. Or ideas for good work culture. There's a good chance I might get ranked for those keywords too if I use these related keywords. All right, here's all the tools that I talked about. If you're on the blog post where this video is, they're all linked there as well. All right. One of the things that I heard from the conference from a bunch of different people is that the Google Keyword Planner lies. On the previous screencast you saw, it kind of showed you the traffic for some keywords, and so many people said that those traffic numbers should not be listened to, which was kind of interesting. Also, when it comes to SEO, you got to make sure you're using your header tags properly, which a lot of websites still don't do. So like that top title there should have a good H1 tag, and then the subheader should have an H2 tag, and your subheading should have an H3, or if you don't have, a subtitle, they should be an H2. Those are really important to do because you get ranked there. Google looks at that and will index you, and you'll get some of those long tail keywords. Also, make sure you have a proper title and meta description. You probably know, title makes sense. That's your H1 and your title tag. But also, what's this meta description? Well, it's the description of your article that a lot of search engines use as the description right there. How do you make sure you do that? Well, you make sure you're on your post page or on your page, you've got a tag that looks something like this. And if you're using WordPress, there's some plugins you can use that allow you to do this, some SEO plugins, so that each article or each page can have its own custom meta description. It's important to have. So those are a couple ideas. There's plenty more. This is just the tip of the iceberg on learning how to use SEO to your advantage. Next up, number 4, truly find your niche, right? Stop trying to be everything to everyone. The more niche you can be, the more likely you'll be writing things and creating content that easily gets on people's radar. If you're general, it's going to be hard to stand out, right? So questions to ask yourself about that. What's something that nobody else is doing? What do people often ask your advice or expertise in? What can I do differently than others out there? Don't just blog about gardening, blog about cold climate gardening, or life on the balcony for people who have balconies but no gardens, or high altitude gardening, or for people that don't have a lot of time, 20-minute gardening, or for the younger generation, a next generation gardener, or people who garden and then need to organize their herbs and freeze them in nice little organized containers in their freezer. One thing that I did pretty early on when I would write, articles, I'm writing blog posts for Rails developers who need to implement search features in their website. Very niche, very specific. This article that I wrote, Axis Ferret, I know it sounds pretty funny, became like the guide for learning how to do this. Everyone linked to it, drove a lot of traffic because it was the only really good written guide for it. So truly find your niche. That's number 4. These go quicker as I get further. Number 5, be consistent. This guy, John Hall, talked a bunch about moving from short-term memory to long-term memory. And the way you do that is you're consistent with the way that you post, releasing content often, maybe creating content at a certain time every week so people start to expect it every week. They look for it every week. I created a podcast pretty early on as I got into Rails. It was a news podcast, and we would release it every Tuesday morning. People expected it every Tuesday morning. People would put that on their schedule. If we didn't have it out Tuesday morning, they would say, hey, I went on my ride to work and it felt wrong not having the podcast for me to listen to. And we're like, wow, people really were looking forward to that. They worked it into their habit. We were making it into the long-term memory. So that's be consistent. Number 6, distribute content to every channel, right? So your content should be heading out on social media, on all the channels, right? Not just once, multiple times. That was also interesting to hear that when someone created a good piece of content, they would schedule it to tweet not just this week, but in 2 weeks. And then after that, every month. Because, not everybody sees it as it goes through the feed the first time. And you can change the text a little bit every time, but you got to be promoting your best content. Also, make sure you use images or video on social media so you can stand out. I've been having a great time using buffer.com, which makes it super simple actually with a tool they have built in to create images, which are more likely to get you eyeballs. Also, you got to make sure you have an email list. So you're sending out about your content, not just once, multiple times, and even more for the people who don't open your emails. If you have a piece of content and you send it out about it, or if you have an event and you send out about it, depending on what most email services have the ability to send an email to people who did not open your email the first time. So you send them another email and maybe you change the subject to, did you get my email? Did you see my blog post? Right? They didn't because they didn't open your email. But you write something like that, letting them know, hey, here's something. I know you should check it out. Also, if you're creating video, right, it could just be, now to be fair, it could be video for written content. There's nothing that says that you can't have video for written content. And there's tools out there these days which make it super simple to create a quick video with a couple images and some subtitles. And you're going to need to post natively to all of these different websites. Gosh, at some point I really got to find the time to do this. Because I've got lots of video, but I'm not posting to each of these forums, and I'm really curious if it would do well. And each of these have different optimal lengths. So you've got to create different videos for each channel. And some start with the audio off, right? So that's like Facebook, I know, if it's going to play video as you scroll down the feed, it's going to start with the audio off. So you have to have an engaging video with subtitles there so that people can watch your video without audio. There's some really interesting stats about how a lot of people will watch the whole video without audio. They do it. Also, you can post some of or all of your content to Medium. So Medium has the ability to do something called a canonical link. And what this means is you don't get penalized from Google for having duplicate content. You might have heard that, you can't post here and post there because then Google will penalize you. But if you Google Medium import tool, It allows you to import your blog posts into your Medium account and post them. And it will put a special tag on your Medium page that tells Google that this is not the original page where this content came from. And it says the original page is over here and points to your website. So you don't get penalized at all for putting content in two different places. Kind of neat. The jury's out with LinkedIn. It's so funny when you Google around for should I post my content both on my blog and LinkedIn? Some people do it. Some people say you shouldn't do it. Some people say go for it. Sometimes when people do it, the LinkedIn post outranks their blog, which of course is not good. If you have an opinion about it, talk to me about it, because I'm not sure what the right strategy is for LinkedIn. It goes all over the place. All right, we're almost done. Number 7 of ways to create content that drives traffic is tracking your traffic and doing something with it. So there was a great talk by Ian Cleary, and he mentioned this methodology. First, you produce a bunch of content. Then you identify your top pages. Odds are your top pages bring in about 80% of your traffic. This is the content you want to keep up to date. And when you update it, let's say every 6 months, that gives you an excuse to re-promote it. Re-promote it again, just like it's a brand new article. I've heard other people say, on the articles like this, change the date, or even don't include a date for stuff that you're updating a bunch. Also, identify additional content. So how can I make this article even more optimized to capture even more keywords? Because odds are the page rank for the article might be pretty high. You might have a chance of grabbing additional keywords. So maybe go through that SEO process of identifying additional keywords you should be using in that article. And then give away additional content in exchange for an email form. Maybe like this, where at the bottom of the article, download the most popular podcast software and hardware shared by the top podcasters. So additional content if you give me your first name and email so I can put you on my mailer, right? And then you can market to them. Then remarket to them if they don't opt in. In case you're not familiar, remarketing refers to those ads that follow you around the internet. So it's the ability for you to, for example, put like a snippet of Facebook pixel code on your page where you ask for someone's email address. And then you can create ads on Facebook, for example. So when they go on Facebook, you can say people who went to this but did not give me their email, show them this particular ad saying, come and get this, this conversion, this podcaster PDF. I want to email you this, or I want to send you this video if you just give me your email. All right. There you go. 7 ways to create content that drives traffic. Let's go over them one more time. Strong opinions, original research, build relationships with influencers. So many people said this is the best way to build domain authority and get good traffic. Learn how to use SEO to your advantage. Truly find your niche. Be consistent, putting out content consistently. Distribute content on every channel. And of course, track your traffic and use that to figure out which pieces of content you should be investing more of your time in. Now, before we go, I want to let you know about a video I've got where I go through some of these concepts and what I learned from content marketing at this conference, and I apply it to things I did right and wrong as I built Code School, as I built NV Labs, and the stuff before that. So just give me your email address. I'll send you the video showing the good things that I did and the horrible things that I did. And thanks for watching.